This episode contains mature content and includes discussion of death, sexual content, and other graphic scenes experienced by a first responder. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you've been through something unthinkable, if you've ever been told not to share your story, to suck it up, buttercup, or thought, no one will believe me anyway, if you're still here fighting to figure out what comes next, then you have a story the world needs to hear, and we want to be the ones to help you share it. My name is Sam,
My name is Joe.
and we are Project Tell Your Story.
Alrighty, well, today we are here with Jaeger. Jaeger, welcome to our episode. How are you? Doing great. Yeah, we're excited to have you on. We're excited to hear your story that you're here to share. So tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do for work, what you do for fun.
So my name's Jaeger. I'm currently located over in Delaware, and I'm a paramedic for the state. Delaware's really unique where the state runs all of the paramedics for their 911 service. So that's what I do full time as a job. In my off time, I like to go fishing. Try to do a lot of that. We have the ocean, so lots of good fishing there, as well as a lot of local streams, ponds, lakes, stuff like that. So that's what I spend most of my free time in.
Sweet. Yeah, our younger sister and I are actually convinced that Delaware is not a real place, so it's exciting to hear somebody actually lives there.
Hey,
Wait.
when I told my dad that I was moving here, and he drives truck, like he used to drive truck for his job, so he's traveled all over the United States. He didn't know that it was a state. So, I mean, you're not the only one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why were you convinced it's not a real place? Just because you don't
Well,
ever hear
'cause
of someone who lives in Delaware?
yeah, you never hear anybody that's like, "Oh, I'm from Delaware. I live in Delaware." So we were convinced that this is some made up place for like government experiments or something like that.
Jaeger, are you a government experiment?
No, but I am neighbors to Biden, so
Oh,
Oh.
wait, really? That's kind of cool.
no, he lives in the state, but
Oh, I thought you meant like in your same vicinity. I was like, whoa, that's trippy. Okay,
no, that's the fancy part of Delaware. I can't afford it there.
that's fair.
That's okay.
You're
We
a
can't afford to live where we
yeah.
live either.
I was like, you're like a millennial-ish, right? So no one can afford anything. Cool. So actually, I want to go on the fishing thing. That's pretty cool. What kind of fish do you catch in the ocean? Like, do you do shore fishing? Do you go out on a boat? What do you do?
So I've really been wanting to go and get on a boat, get out in the middle of the ocean, start catching some really big stuff. Haven't had the opportunity to do it yet. So mainly just shore type of fishing. There's a lot of like sea bass that's out there. You can catch all sorts of sharks, stingray, a whole multitude of stuff. I mainly do it inland though, with the freshwater type of fish. So we have a lot of bass here, a lot of bluegill. Yeah, that's about catfish. There's a lot of good catfish. I love catfish.
Dang.
That's
Do you
really
eat them
cool.
or do you just catch and release?
It depends on where you get them. Yeah, the most popular spots, the easiest places, unfortunately, are like polluted, so we end up tossing them back. But there are a few places around here where you can catch and eat. When I do catch
Yeah.
stuff there and it's big enough, yeah, I definitely eat
Sweet. Yeah,
That's
you don't
super
want
cool.
some janky polluted fish.
it. Yeah, no, yeah, heavy metals and sewage runoff, stuff like that. So they're fun to catch, but you definitely don't want to eat them.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some places here like that, like that are the like basically off like the military bases that they have the signs that are like you should not eat any fish that you catch here.
No
So,
surprise.
yeah.
At least they
Like
put
all the
signs out.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's because
Natural
of all
selection.
the natural selection. Well, it's because of like all the oil and stuff that gets put into the water, right, from the ships and submarines and stuff. So, yeah. All right, Jaeger, what is the strangest fact that you know? Like just out of anything. I feel like you're a person that knows a lot of random stuff. So like what's the strangest thing you know?
Oh, geez. Okay, so when selling human organs, the skin is the most valuable because there's a lot more of it than like per yardage type of stuff than any other organ.
Okay,
Wow.
now I want to know how you know that. Like, did you just Google that one time? Source it.
You want to know.
You won't?
You don't want to know. No,
Say I can't reveal my sources about
He's
human
running
skin
some
harvesting.
skin factory.
no. There's got to be some sort of a post that I saw somewhere, a conversation. I mean, it's medical related, so I bet it came up in conversation at some point in time. It's having to afford something. People are always saying, "Oh yeah, I got to sell my kidney," or I got to give my left arm for something. Well,
Right.
you really can sell organs, and they are quite valuable. So I bet
Yeah.
there was a post at some point in time that I saw somewhere that said, "Oh, if you want to sell your kidney, yeah, you can get $6,000 for it." And skin, like I think it's like per inch or something, you can get like $20 or something like that. So it's like you
Oh.
completely skin a person. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, so if I
Yeah.
wanted to like fund a vacation, there's no point in selling my own kidney, just skin a person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Have you-
thinking. Like, you just see us out here, like, skinning ourselves. Like, I only need about this much to go on a cruise.
right? Hey, it grows back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm so glad we asked you that question. That was great.
Like, have you ever seen a skin graft when it's put on?
Yeah.
So
I
it's like
have not.
okay, so like in the grocery store, have you ever seen those like bundles of apples that have the lattice like wrapping around it? That's
Yeah.
what they do with human skin when they do a skin graft. So they'll cut it into a lattice type shape. They don't just like lay the whole thing over you. They put it into that
Oh.
lattice effect, and then their own body will fill in the little tiny gaps. So
Yeah, it's like mesh, like skin mesh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay.
your skin goes a lot further too when you try to sell it because they're going to stretch it out and they're going to do that sort of thing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm also glad that we asked you that. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. I said we're gonna have to talk a little bit more to see some more interesting facts that you know. 'Cause I was not expecting that.
An entire episode of just interesting facts. It
Yeah.
must be organ harvesting related.
Yeah. Well, now all that's coming to mind is organ type facts. So
You have
gonna
more?
it's going to go down a deep hole.
It's okay.
We get
We're labeled as
flagged by
18.
the FBI.
We're labeled as 18 and older. It's fine.
They're like, these hoes are definitely on the black market.
You invite a paramedic on here. I mean, unfortunately, we have a very morbid sense of humor. So
I feel that.
It's gonna it goes deep. We censor a lot around normal people.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a nurse, so I get that. Like the things
there
that
you
my
go.
coworkers and I say at work, I'm like, if anybody heard this, they would be like, you guys are insane.
Yes. Exactly.
I just fly airplanes, so
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're
We'll
accepting
teach
of
you
it,
our ways.
then we're good. Yeah.
Well, Jaeger, how are you feeling about talking to us today? Like, are you very comfortable? Are you nervous? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. Yeah, I'm very open and willing to talk about whatever questions you have and gung-ho about it. So I'm ready to start rolling.
Sweet.
So we'll get right into what you came here to talk about today, which you were not planning on talking about organs. So we'll talk about what you were planning on talking about. And don't worry about being like perfect in front of the camera because Joe and I are obviously not perfect in front of the camera. But, here at Project Tell Your Story, that is just that. Like, this is your story. So not anyone else's story. It's your version of events. What is everything that is true to you? And it's your ability to get it out into the world. And so for our listeners, we'll be changing the names of anyone from this point on. Jaeger's is the only name that you're going to hear that is a true name in this story. If anybody else pops up in his story, it's either going to be a title like my boss, my neighbor, or if you hear Sally or whatever, you know that these are pseudonyms. So are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you're here to talk to us about your career. You mentioned you're a paramedic, so I mean, like, can you talk about that and how that looks?
I mean, so whenever you call 911, you have a medical emergency. Typically, one of two things will show up: an EMT or a paramedic or both. In most states, as I had previously mentioned, Delaware is very unique, where they are the only state where it's strictly run paramedics by the state. Most other states that you're in, it's an EMT and a paramedic. They're on the same ambulance unit that'll come and show up to you. That way they can handle what we call BLS calls or ALS calls, basic life support and advanced life support. So my training is advanced life support, so I can do a lot of stuff that nurses, doctors can even do, administer a lot of different medications. I know how to interpret heart rhythms and treat certain heart rhythms, as well as shock people and all sorts of different stuff. So EMTs, they go to anywhere from a few weeks to a couple of months worth of schooling, whereas mine is typically a 2-degree program. I did an accelerated program at a college for 10 months. So I didn't get a degree out of it, just a certification, but it depends on what state you're in.
Sweet. Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
ask the difference between like an EMT and a paramedic for those who didn't know. So, yeah, you did a great job explaining that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know the difference. A lot of people don't know that there is a difference.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know. So, I hear people call you ambulance drivers. How do you feel about that?
That is a very common, yes, reference to them. It's, I don't know, in one way it's kind of a joke, something that we laugh at. Some others, it might frustrate them a little bit more because, on a BLS level, EMTs, especially nowadays, that is essentially kind of what we've become, is ambulance drivers. We're an Uber for for a very lot of people, because back in the day when, our grandfathers were, young and fit and stuff like us, they didn't call unless they were having a heart attack. They didn't call unless it was a life or death type of situation, which is kind of what we're supposed to be. That's what we're here for, is life or death type of stuff, severe cases. Whereas nowadays, I mean, the amount of stubbed toes that I've had to go to, the amount of tummy aches, the amount of hungry or didn't want to walk to their house, like blocks away from their home, and called because they're like, my legs, I just can't make it.
No
Okay,
way.
so go to the hospital? Yeah. Okay, climb on in. Thankfully, that is all of those lower level things are EMT. Those are BLS level type of calls, which is one thing that I really like about Delaware, because I, as a paramedic, no longer have to respond to those. So
That's
now I
nice.
Mm.
strictly only go to legitimate life or death sort of things. Occasionally, we'll go to something that is ridiculous or funny, or whatever, however you want to describe it. But it is very seldom that happens.
So you get like your calls get triaged? Is
Mm-hmm.
that kind of how that works?
Yeah. So when you call into 911, the dispatchers will answer the phone, and then they go off of a computer program where they ask you information. Like, of course, they start with, where are you? What's your emergency? So they can immediately start dispatching the correct units, whether that's police, fire, EMS. And when they go through all the questioning, depending on how you answer those calls, they will structure it as anywhere from Oscar levels to Echo level. So Oscar, Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta, Echo. I only respond to Charlie, Deltas, and Echoes. Those ones are typically, lights and sirens. For us, Deltas and Echoes are the only ones that are lights and sirens. And those are based on how you answered your questions. It tells them that somebody will die if somebody doesn't get there fast enough.
Mm.
So that's when we respond to those. However, all the EMTs, the BLS, they respond to the Oscar, Alpha, and Betas, as well as all the other ones. But exclusively, they do the lower level stuff. We never go to that stuff. try and help triage that and get essential resources only where they need to go.
Okay.
Okay,
So
that
you
makes
guys
sense.
don't have to have an EMT and a paramedic running together then.
No, no, and that's one of the unique things about Delaware is we operate out of chase units. So we drive our own vehicles, not an ambulance, that has all of our gear in it, 2 sets of gear, so that we can respond to calls along with the EMTs. But your EMTs could be coming from a firehouse, a private agency, wherever it is, whereas we have a station that's somewhere else that's separate from them.
Huh. That's really cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And that also helps with the triaging aspect of it too, because it's structured in a way that hopefully the EMTs will get on scene before us so that they can do further triage and they can see, oh, this Delta level breathing call isn't really a Delta level. This is like a Bravo level. So they can cancel
Mm.
us so that we're still available to be able to go to somebody who might actually need it.
Okay, does that happen a lot to you? Like you're en route and you get canceled?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it happens all the time. So my county will put up monthly updates on numbers of calls that we were dispatched to. And for instance, last month, I think we were around 1,700 calls is what we were dispatched out to. Only 700 of those are ones that we actually transported. So about
Wow.
1,000 of the calls that we were dispatched to, we were either canceled on while we were en route, or we released it to BLS because we got on scene and determined that our skills were not needed. And so
Oh, okay.
they're allowed to transport the patient without us.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So tell us what got you started in this line of work? Like, why did you want to become a paramedic?
So back in high school, I always, I always knew that I wanted to get into some form of the medical field. And early on, I was able to get involved with Classic Air Medical in my hometown, which was a life flight company. And I was able to go and hang out with the crews a little bit, get to know a couple members of the crew. And one of their nurses was able to kind of take me under her wing and show me a lot more than what people normally would see. And I was able to go to the hospital a couple of times and help package the patients, see them and get them into the helicopter and fly them out, that sort of thing. And so that kind of led me down the pathway of nursing, which is initially what I wanted to go to college for, and that's what I ended up going to college for. However, after a couple of years, life gets in the way of things and plans don't go according. So when I eventually ended up moving to Delaware, I saw an ad in one of the local papers for an EMT program, and I was like, you know what? I love emergency medicine. My grandfather, he's in the fire service in my hometown, and so growing up with him a lot, I got to go on to scenes, fire scenes, and hang out with the ambulance crew, and I have a lot of good memories in regard to that too. So I've been drawn to that sort of an aspect, on a different level. And so I was like, you know what, let's take this EMT program, let's do that. And I joined that up, and as soon as I did that, I never wanted to do anything ever anything different. I've done so many different jobs, from accounting type work to the manager of a pet store for multiple years. I've done all sorts of weird odd end jobs. And this is the only job that I've gotten into where I'm not bored at all, where I am completely satisfied and happy to go into work every single day. Because everything is always different and I love it. It's a whole different career. And becoming an EMT is kind of like the doorway into becoming a paramedic. You don't have to have your EMT beforehand, but it is recommended that you do, just so that you get your feet wet, you get some experience in the field, and be able to kind of determine a little bit more if that is the sort of pathway that you want to go, or if it's not, essentially. And after a couple of years as being an EMT, my county decided to offer all expenses paid. They paid for school, they paid you while you go to school to join their paramedic program, to be one of their paramedics. And I went and interviewed for it, and I got in. And so now that's how I am where I am today. And so before I wanted to be a nurse, and now I'm a paramedic, and I get to see kind of both ends of the spectrum. And there are a lot more, I don't know, things that I like about being a paramedic than I would have probably as a nurse.
Yeah.
We like to joke that a lot of us as paramedics enjoy being paramedics because we don't like asking for permission to do things.
Joe,
Yeah,
how do
you
you
just
feel about
treat them
that?
and eat them.
Which Joe might be able to, relate on.
Yes, everything is it okay if I check your blood sugar? Is it okay if I do this? Where like you get them and you're like, well, if I don't do this, you're gonna die. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, of course, in that regard too, we do ask permission from the patients and stuff to do a lot of things. But like, if I was in a hospital setting, even as a paramedic, if somebody had a really fast heart rate and it needed to be fixed immediately, I would have to go to a doctor and say, hey, this is the problem. Can we do something about this? And I wouldn't be able to do really anything because it's turned over to them. They're the higher level of care. Whereas in the street, if there's a really fast heart rhythm and the person could potentially die, I don't have to ask a doctor for it. We have protocols that are in place, standing protocols, where it's kind of like a permission previously given from a doctor. So a doctor said, in these circumstances, you can do certain things. So I don't have
yeah.
to ask for that permission because it's already been given based on my assessment. So I can give that medication. Only a few select things do we have to actually call in and talk to a doctor about it to get prior authorization for.
Yeah, that is really nice because you get all these doctors with God complexes that are like, you're telling them, hey, this is what's going on with my patient. And they're like, oh, well, you don't know anything. And basically, they probably just need to drink water. And you're like, oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. You're like,
I'll just
okay,
shove water down their
whatever.
throat while they're dying. I like how you said you were mentioning in the hospital when you went to go and help like get patients sent out for life flight and you called it, would you call it packaging the patient?
Packaging the
That
patient. Yeah.
that made me laugh. You're just like wrapping them up with a bow.
Essentially, yeah. Especially when you're going onto the helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Like a
that's
little
funny.
burrito.
Like a little burrito. That's really cool. Yeah, I had the biggest smile on my face because when you were talking about how much you loved that, you're like, I did it and I realized I never wanted to do anything else in my life for a career. And I love to hear how passionate you were behind that. That just makes me secondhand excited for you. I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
found something that just sets your soul on fire. That's to hear
Yeah.
you talk about it is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you can just tell like how passionate you are just in your small little description of what you do for work. So,
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple times that they paid for your training, that you go through more training than an EMT, but like what exactly does that look like? Like are you in school? Are you doing like hands-on stuff? How many years is that to get to where you are now?
Yeah. So it really depends on the program that you get involved with. There's a current program that we're putting uh, paramedics through, paramedic candidates through, that it's a 2-year degree program for them. So with them, they have to get all their general ed credits, and then they have to go through different courses, and they have to study. They have to take college courses. Whereas with me, it was a kind of a trade school, vocational type of school. So I was able to go there, and it was, I think, two to three times per week, nights for like Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it was only a few hours during the night on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then, like every other weekend, we would have all day type of courses. And then all throughout the week, of course, there's study material and book reading that you had to do and studying. And so typically your program lasts around 2 years. For us, ours was 10 months because it was an
Oh.
accelerated program. So they crammed 2 years worth of information and training into 10 months.
Wow, so
yeah.
that probably felt very intense.
Yes. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. It was one of the hardest things I've had to do.
I believe it. I mean, it's nice because you get it done quickly, but they're basically just like, Oh, well, you have 5 seconds to learn that. Move on.
Yeah. I mean, a good example of that is cardiology. So, studying about the heart, learning about the heart, and all of the things that can go wrong with it, in addition to learning how to read the heart signals that are on our monitors, on our EKG readings. All of that material is collectively amongst, people that I went to school with, as well as people that I've talked to who are going through school and everything like that, is that cardiology is one of the hardest things that we have to learn. It tends to be the main struggle point of so many people. And the amount of time that we got to learn all that information and do that stuff was like, I think no more than 2 weeks. We got
Wow.
2 weeks to learn everything there is about the heart and how to read the heart and understand everything about it. And then we moved on.
I'm sure that makes listeners feel good. They're like, oh, well, I'm dying out in the street and they're going to come and fix me in something they learned in 2 weeks.
But is there like a flesh out process, right? I guess no pun intended, but that like kind of weeds you out. Like if you aren't meeting a certain standard at the end of those 2 weeks, or you're not like passing a test, then they just like kick you out. So if you pass, like you know your stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're the same standards as are in any college type of course. There are tests at the end of every single unit that we had to learn things on. So the cardiology unit, at the end of those 2 weeks, when we took our test, we had to identify heart rhythms, we had to identify diseases and treatments of the heart. And so if you don't know that information, then yeah, you didn't pass it. And with our program, it was if you failed 3 courses, then you failed out of the program. You had to take it again. Of course, we were given more opportunities on those tests. So we were given, a point of time to be able to study some more and meet with one of the instructors for the course or somebody else and study some more. But yeah, so those standards are there. So even if you're worried about the 2 week type of time period, we have and possess that knowledge, and we pass the tests not only on that school level, but at the very end of the year there is a nationalized test that we have to take. So national standards that if you can't pass that, you can't be a paramedic.
That
Wow,
makes sense. Yeah. So calm down,
that's good.
listeners. If Jaeger shows up, you're safe.
He knows his stuff.
So we do a lot of studying on off time. When you complete school, that's not where all the learning stops, especially because, the medical field is constantly changing. There's new information coming out constantly. So, like with my work, we have monthly trainings just to make sure that our skills and all of our knowledge is still up to date and good to go. Like this month, here in a few days, we're taking a cardiology course and advanced cardiac life support type of stuff so that we can refresh our skills, refresh our knowledge, keep that at the back of our mind so that when we do respond to those calls, that knowledge is fresh.
That's good. Well, now we kind of got an idea of what you do, what it looks like to be a paramedic, how you got there, your passion, everything like that. So now moving on to just like a day on the job, we have a little segment that we would like to try out. It's called Your First and Your Worst. So first we want to do where you talk about like your first call out, the first call that you remember when you first started your job. And then after that, we want to hear about your worst call, the worst call that you've had that you can think of, or one of the worst.
So the first call, of
Yeah,
course.
let's start with your
Um,
first call.
so the
Yeah.
first call, that's pretty difficult to try and have to remember because unfortunately there are so many patients that we see on a daily basis that a lot of stuff blends together. And so if it doesn't have some sort of factor about it that's memorable, like something weird, or if it was one of our worst calls, one of the most horrible things, it tends to get out of our mind. Like you tend to
Right.
forget about it, unfortunately. Um, I don't, I'm trying to think of one of the first calls. And I mean, thinking about that too, especially, talking about what we're talking about today, trauma and mental health and things like that, in the initial part when I became a paramedic is the training phase. The months where you're being scrutinized on every tiny detail that you do, where you have somebody constantly looking over your shoulder. So there is definitely a lot of trauma that has secluded a lot of those memories and tucked it away in a deep corner somewhere in my mind, probably.
Yeah.
So trying to remember those sorts of things, it is difficult. So, I mean, a first call, when I try to remember back, as I said before, memorable calls are really the things that stick out. One of the first calls that I can remember is responding to a mental health facility where a patient had been strangled by another patient.
Oh,
And when we arrived on scene, the one patient who had done the strangling was nowhere. We had no idea where they were. And then the one who was strangled was unconscious on the ground, on the verge of death.
Mhm.
wow.
So there's a lot of stuff that, goes through your mind that, I mean, typically probably a lot of people don't think about when they think of first responders. And that's like, their safety.
Mhm.
For first responder safety, we never know what type of a situation we're getting into. If the call taker, like from dispatch, gets information that alludes to the potential, violence on scene or something dangerous, they can tell us to stage before a scene. So they can tell us, hey, hold back, wait till police get there so that they can clear it out, make sure everything is okay for you guys, and then you can go in and everything will be fine.
Hmm.
But more often than not, there are a lot more situations where you never see it coming. It's a
Right.
scenario that, I mean, is even horrible enough to think about that we had to train on it in school, where just out of the blue, your instructor had a fake gun pointed at you. And you're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, now that I'm in this situation, what do I do? You have to always know where your exits are. You have to always know who's in a room, what's in a room. And, that contributes to the trauma and mental load that we take on a daily basis. A lot of us
Right.
can't go anywhere, even off the job, without scanning crowds, without finding an exit in a room, an exit in the building, without eyeing everybody in the room and evaluating, if something happens here, who do I have to get through? Who do I have to get in between? What do I have to do in here to protect myself and my partner? Because that's our number one. Your safety is the number one priority.
Right.
And that actually brought into my mind, an early call that I haven't thought about in a while. But I mean, things were popping off, that somebody was choking on something. And when we got inside the residence, family were gathered around, which happens quite often. And they get really frustrated when you don't move fast enough, when you don't do things that they think you should be doing. Like they think that once you get there, that you should be grabbing them and getting them into the ambulance and going to the hospital, which 9 times out of 10 is not the right thing to do. And family started to get violent and they started to get really angry. And my partner, she told me later at a different point in time that she was starting to feel threatened for her life. That's how scared that she was in that sort of a situation. Is because while I was evaluating the patient, she was kind of talking to family, and unknown to me, they were getting fairly hostile to her. And we didn't have any police on scene, we didn't have anything, because that's not something that we were thinking was going to be an issue. And luckily, it didn't progress to that sort of a point where it was a bad situation. But it just goes to tell that, you never know what's going to happen on a scene. You always have to be vigilant and have that at the back of your mind.
Yeah. That's scary. I wouldn't even think that that would be something that a EMT or paramedic would have to deal with, because normally you think about police officers that are constantly on guard, are constantly checking their surroundings and their safety. Like you wouldn't I guess I wouldn't even think that other first responders have to deal with that too.
Mhm.
That's so scary.
Yeah. And I mean, it's in regard to things like a cardiac arrest, where somebody's heart has stopped, they've stopped breathing. Something that a lot of people don't know is us as paramedics, we can do everything that the hospital can do on scene. So a lot of family members will get frustrated, upset, because we're not doing anything. We're not moving for 20 to 30 minutes. We're sitting there and we're doing stuff, and they get really confused as to why we're not taking them to the hospital, why we're not taking them to a doctor.
Mm.
And we can. We can do everything that the hospital can do. And it's actually a lot safer and a lot more beneficial for the patient because it's a more stable environment. If we move them to the ambulance, that jars around everything inside their body because we have to pick them up, we have to put them on the stretcher, we have to get them out of the home, we have to do all sorts of things that are constantly jostling them around, that are stopping our compressions, that are making our ventilations, breathing for them inadequate, and it worsens their outcomes. So that's another situation where violence and danger on scene has become fairly prevalent.
Right, because you're doing everything, or like a lot of things in the home.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And back to that first, like when you said you showed up to the mental health institution and you didn't know like where the other patient was, right, that had strangled the person that you were there to take care of. How
Yeah.
did you handle that?
So luckily there was a fire. The fire department was on scene, and the on-scene commander, the chief of that fire department, was able to locate where the patient was. And he was able to tell us while we're doing things for the patient in the room, he was able to tell us, hey, we found the patient. He's outside in the hallway. So let's not move. Let's not do anything until police do get here, and then they can handle that situation. So, I mean, at the same time, we're still in a room with no other doors to the outside, with staff and fire department, which, I mean, fire department, EMS, police, we're all, we all consider each other family. We consider each other, brothers and sisters, and we would trust our lives with each other. So knowing that I had a whole entire fire department between me and that patient, or the patient's attacker, it was enough for me to at least be able to just do stuff that I need to do on scene while they, looked out for us.
So you really have to trust your team.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
That's good. That's good that you feel like you have that level of trust with the people you work with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's needed.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, with my department and how we do things, we're in a partnership. So it's two paramedics that are on a unit. And we each have our own platoons, our groups, our work shifts that we do. And then we'll exchange partners like every week. And there are a lot of circumstances where, people prefer a certain station. And so they'll go to that station a lot more frequently. Myself and another guy, we've frequently gone to the exact same station. So we've been able to develop a pretty strong relationship and know how each other works and know each other's, mindsets and everything. And so you do develop a very solid relationship with these people. You do develop a lot of trust with some of these people because, I mean, my daytime shifts are 10 hours at a time, and then my nighttime shifts are 14 hours. So you're doing 10, 14 hours, 4 days a week, plus any overtime that you do. I mean, you spend a lot of time with these people, so you get very close to a lot of these people.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, you
So
definitely
then-
don't want to be spending 14 hours with someone you don't trust.
Yes, most definitely, which
Yeah.
unfortunately happens. So it's something that you just have to develop and get around, work with.
Yeah.
So you have to have people skills, it sounds like, to do this job.
Yes.
Like even just with partners, like you said, with volatile people and patients and family, but also with your team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we get trained in de-escalation type of techniques. We get taught in multiple different areas to try and, relate and have empathy with patients. I mean, building rapport. We get
Mm-hmm.
training in death notifications and how to, properly tell somebody that a family member has died, because there are proper ways to do that. There are some ways that are very detrimental and very negatively impactful to the family member, whereas there are other ways that are very beneficial. For instance, you don't tell somebody that, their family member has passed away. You don't tell them that they are no longer here. You have to tell them they are dead.
Right.
You can't skirt around it at all, because it'll contribute to falsities inside of their head. You know, it's not real unless you say dead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Which unfortunately some people get really upset over because it's so harsh.
Yeah, yeah. But in the long run, it is more beneficial.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're never easy. Death
No.
notifications are never easy. And that typically falls with the paramedics. That is one realm house that is pretty exclusive to us. Very rarely ever will an EMT tell a family member that somebody has died, or police or fire. It's usually up to the paramedic, because we're the
Well,
ones who also do the pronouncing.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's hard.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you, because you said that you've had instances where you have had to declare death and then tell the family members, do you feel like that's something that really sits with you, something that you kind of have to, I don't want to say deal with, but just feelings and traumas that really resonate with you and sit with you?
Um. So things impact a lot of people differently. Um. Deaths in general don't impact me as much as what somebody else might be affected. Um.
Right.
I know that, of course, it's a lot more impactful depending on the situation. So if we get on scene and the person, their heart rhythm is asystole, which means there's absolutely no electrical signal, there's absolutely no beating, there's nothing. And that's how the code goes. That's how the cardiac arrest is. The entire time is just nothing. Then, like, not trying to sound like, harsh about it, but it's a lot more impactful, because there's not much that we could do for them. They
Right.
were already to a point where nothing was working, even despite some of our interventions, like giving them epinephrine, which helps with,
Mhm.
helping their heart contract. If there is, a sort of a heart change, like what we call PEA, it will see electrical signals on the signal or on the monitor, but we won't see actual beating of the heart. That's a change. So those sorts of calls are a little bit different. And then that even escalates more to somebody who is in something called VFib or VTAC, which are rhythms that we can shock, that we can give a whole few different medications to try and fix. Patients where that's happening and we have to shock them. And then those patients who also have to be transported to the hospital. Like, those ones are a lot more impactful in the long run than the ones where really not much was really done for them. The
Yeah.
amount that you're working, becoming emotionally invested into it, impacts a lot more. Because, for me, if I've been working on a person for 40, 50 minutes straight, been loading them up with every single medicine that I have in my book, in my box, and nothing changes, and their heart is still in VFib. I'm shocking them and nothing happens. And then I get to the hospital and hand it over to doctors. That's a lot more impactful, especially when the doctor decides to then call it because
Mm.
of time alone. They're like, you guys have been doing a lot for a very long time. You've done everything that we can do. There's nothing much more that we can do for them. And then they call it. That is very frustrating for a lot of paramedics because we've done so much. We've tried
Yeah.
so hard just to have them die. That is very impactful. That is very traumatizing. That is very, stressful. And especially when stuff stacks up. You do this for however many years, a lot of these things stack up. A lot of these feelings. And if you don't have an outlet for those types of feelings, someone to talk to, or, something to do with those, then it just gets bottled up until, at one point, the dam breaks, and then it depends on where you are at the point in time, I guess. For some people that might mean suicide. For some people that might mean burnout and quitting their job and not having that job anymore. It all depends on really where you are. But
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. So then we talked about this was a first and worst segment, and I think, you really spanned a lot of different kinds of calls that you've taken,
mhm,
and you just mentioned like the stacked trauma, right? Compounded trauma.
mhm.
Um, do you feel like your stress and your long-term trauma comes more from the stacked trauma, the compounded trauma, the things that you've experienced over time, like death by a thousand cuts type of situation? Or do you feel like there are certain calls that affect you more? Does that make sense? Like, are there a
Yeah.
few calls, or is it like kind of a compounded trauma over time?
Um, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that everything over time, that compounded trauma is very stressful, but I think that it's, those certain calls that stick with you that you can't
Mm-hmm.
get past that are the ones that break you. They're the ones that
Mm,
keep you up at night. They're the ones that trigger you on different similar calls. And that is just on top of the already overfilling basin of stuff that you've had to go through.
right.
Right.
So then, can you tell us, do you feel comfortable telling us about maybe one of those calls that keeps you up at night?
So I'll take a little bit of a segue with that. And there are studies that have been done with paramedics and EMTs that have showed that the ones who really last the longest, that they have a very unique brain development that allows them to turn off their emotions while they're on calls, while they're at work,
Mm.
which is very beneficial for the patients, for the responder themselves, because that allows them to hone in, to be able to only think about the calls, be able to think about the medications that are needed, only the stuff that needs to be done there. But in other senses, it's very negatively impactful outside of work because it's very draining, and it takes usually like 3 to 4 days for your brain to reset and get back into a normal, humanistic, non-psychopathic type
Mm,
of mindset,
right.
which is unfortunately very detrimental to a lot of people's lives, especially in regard to things like marriage. That's a
Hmm.
big, impactful thing that ruins a lot of first responder marriages. But the average lifespan, before looking it up again today, before this call, the average lifespan for a paramedic in their career is 7 years. That's about as long as a paramedic usually lasts before they reach burnout or
Mm,
something else.
right.
And
Okay.
today, when I re-looked into it, it's now 5 years. So 5 years is the max amount that a paramedic usually lasts in their field before they
Wow.
reach burnout or do something else.
Wow.
And hey, my clock, that's July of next year. So
So you're getting there.
I'm
How
getting
does
there.
that how does that make you feel? Do you feel anxious about that coming closer, that timeline? Do you feel burned out?
No, no. Thankfully, So there are a lot of difficult aspects about this job. There is a lot of trauma, but seeing that 5 year mark, I know that I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be one of those few that last many, many, many more years. There's the old crotchety medics that I work with that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years for some. And I I don't know. I would like to think of myself as being one of those types of ones. And I mean, it just really depends on who you are and how your mindset is and how you're able to deal with that stuff and how
Yeah.
long you can go. I go to therapy. I talk through a lot of things. I try and experience and process the moments that are the most impactful, which kind of leads us back into what you were asking before, something that was very difficult. And I had mentioned previously that that's different for everybody. That,
Mhm.
the most impactful, the worst calls can be different for everyone. For a lot of paramedics, pediatric type of calls are the most impactful, the most detrimental to them. There's just something about our wiring, our heads, that as soon as a pediatric call comes up on the screen, we get into like a fight or flight type of situation.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we're taught in school that kids do really great until they don't. Usually kids compensate very, very well. Even if they are horribly sick, they will compensate very well and appear very normal, and there will be little that'll let you know that something's wrong. And then they die. They'll just
Yeah.
die.
Oh.
And you have to learn how to get on top of that. And that's why I think for a lot of people, those calls are so impactful and so traumatizing and things that keep people up at night, especially if you're a parent. If you're a parent, those, of course, are going to stick with you a whole lot more
Yeah.
than anybody else. And this only just dawned on me the other day because of a call that I had about what is the most impactful and the ones that stick with me the most, I guess. And it's actually something that I talked to my therapist about and opened up to them about and shared and cried over. And it's actually other abuse calls, other sexual abuse, physical abuse, things of that nature. And I talked to him about it because while I had noticed that those are the most impactful, I also realized why I think they're the most impactful, at least for me. And I try not to sound like vain when I say something like this, but it's because those calls are the ones where I can't do anything. I have so
Yeah.
many medications that I can do so many different things for. I have a monitor that can do so many different things, fix so many problems. But things like abuse, they all I can do is sit there. I can try and talk to them, I can try and build rapport, but there's nothing for me to fix. And I think those are why they're the most impactful to me. And I try, as I said, not to sound vain because I'm not trying to sound like a hotshot medic or something, or I can fix anything, that sort of thing. I'm not trying to sound that way. It's and I mean it's maybe also stems from previous experiences that I don't know, maybe will come up in a different video with you guys. But the abuse ones are also that they have to be the most impactful to me. Emotionally, at least. They are
Yeah.
emotionally devastating.
Yeah. I don't think that makes you sound vain at all because you're right. Like you do have all this training, you do have all these medications, you have all these interventions that you can do to save somebody's life. But I'm sure that's really, really, really tough for you when you show up and you have all these skills, you have all these tools, and you can't use any of them. And I'm I would assume, I don't wanna tell you how you feel, but I would assume that you feel very helpless.
Powerless. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's a better word. That's
Yeah,
hard.
that's making me tear up. This is your passion. You're like, I'm showing up and wow, that's really made me really emotional. I'm showing up and I'm putting, my life on the line in some instances, like I don't know what I'm walking into. And, I'm gonna go home and it's gonna take me a while to turn, the switches off in my brain and be able to come back to like almost a different world than everybody else lives in. And there's not even something that you can do. Like, so you're experiencing all of that. And like you said, the only thing you can do is just sit there with them. And I'm sure that in those instances, like that's something that they can appreciate too, but that's gotta, yeah, like Joe said, feel really helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in those situations where
Mm.
you deal with something that is very traumatic, do you feel like you ever feel pressure from other paramedics, from family members, from friends to feel to be okay before you're ready to be okay?
Pressure. Oh, to just to move past it.
Yes,
Quick
yes.
recovery, that sort of thing. Okay. Um, Thankfully, mental health has taken a great step in regard to first responders. They make a lot more resources available for us. They cover therapy sessions and therapist visits. And there is a lot more encouragement from higher ups in admin and stuff like that to seek help and get help if needs be.
Good.
So thankfully, it's not like back in the olden days where it was a suck it up, move past it, get on with it, you'll be fine,
Yeah,
which is what a lot of, these seasoned medics grew up with and have learned to do. That's what they were told when they did it. So thankfully it is a lot different of an environment now that I'm in it, in my current generation, because a
yeah,
lot of that is changed and a lot of help is available. So
good.
in regard to me, pressure from, society, whatever, other paramedics, things like that. No, I don't feel like I'm pressured at all to get
That's good.
past something. We have, uh, I mean, in addition to the basic resources that I listed, we also have a group called CISM that we have with our agency, which is Critical Incident Stress Management. And it's a specialized team that is a group of people who have specialty training to be able to help break down and get you out of that mental mindset during a traumatic incident. And they can be deployed at any time. So if I had a really rough call and I was like, you know what, I'm having a very difficult time with this call, they would be like, do you need CISM? And then one of these specialty trained paramedics who we work with every single day would get dispatched. They're probably going to be at home somewhere and they'll come in on their off time and they'll sit down with you and they'll break down the call with you and try and figure out how to proceed, how to get you to a better place.
So even even being a male in society, you don't feel like there's any pressure for to just get over it because I feel like society has set that up to where females get a lot more understanding and males it's just like, oh, you're fine, get over it.
No, I do agree on that standpoint. On a societal standpoint, as a male, I definitely do feel the pressure of get past it, suck it up, move
Yeah,
past it, because that's just the standard that has been set for so long for men to do on both just a societal level as well as a religious level as well as a, whatever level. It's that is the standard that has typically been set. So I do feel
yeah,
some of those pressures, but overall I do feel very, welcome to not have to do that.
that's good. Yeah, it's very unfortunate the way that society dictates how we respond to people.
I agree. Yes.
So you mentioned CISM, like you said, critical incident stress management. You are a part of this. Explain what that like how does that look like for you in your normal day? You said they're usually at home. You'll get called to somebody. What kind of walk us through what for you that looks like?
So thankfully, it has been a very, very long time, knock on wood, since any of our people have been dispatched to anything. We actually received an email recently about it where they're like, hey, we haven't had anything happen in a while. We should probably have a meeting.
Mm.
So I personally have not had to respond to anything like that, which I'm definitely not bummed out about. I'm
Yeah.
very thankful for that I do not have to do that. But being in the CISM group, we're able to respond anywhere in our Kent County specifically, but if needs be, we can go to the outlying counties. There's only 3 counties in Delaware, pretty small. So we're able to go upwards or downwards depending on what needs to happen. But usually we do have people that are on shift who can respond, but usually they're on a truck, so they're dedicated to going to 911 calls. They're typically not available. Whereas there are a lot of other team members that are on their personal time, sitting at home, out at dinner, wherever it is, and they'll send out a page that says, hey, CISM activation, if you can respond, let us know. And if somebody's available, they'll let them know. If nobody is available, then they'll reach out to the outlying counties and find somebody else who is able to respond. We also have a canine unit with our CISM team. So we have a canine that is specifically trained for emotional support, that if they can respond in that sort of situation, then they'll get activated and their handler will come with them, and they're also a CISM team member. So they're both able to do something and help with a situation like that.
That's really
I
cool.
love that.
So that happens just with your other first responders within Delaware, correct? Like
Yeah.
that's who you're responding to?
Yeah. So in our training, it's specifically geared towards first responders.
Okay.
Even more so, specifically EMTs and kind of fire, just because a lot of fire is also EMT based too. So that is where all of our training is geared towards. That's where it's specifically angled at helping. Our training is very broad though. So we do have the training to be able to deal with public matters if necessary. But part of that training also is trying to determine the next steps beyond just your general conversation with them. So whether that means that they need to be just checked up on later, whether that means that they need to be transported to the hospital to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or whatever else that might be. Trying to get those specific resources for them that will be the most beneficial. So where we're trained specifically on first responders and how to relate to that, that's why it's a lot more effective for us with our coworkers, just because we have that rapport already. We already have those similar experiences that we've gone through. We have that relationship that's already been built. So in something in relation to the public, while we can offer some sort of a support, ultimately it would be probably very brief, and it would be more so trying to find somebody who is more specialized in dealing with a public incident.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of different, federal, state law enforcement agencies have that, where it's like an internal peer group. So that sounds similar to what you're doing, an internal peer group, and you've been trained, right? So they don't have to already explain, this is what it's like to be a paramedic, an EMT, a first responder. Now let me tell you specifically what I'm dealing with. They can just jump right into the issue at hand, and you come up with, sounds like a safe for now, moving forward program for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. And they vary from very brief, one-on-one things to multi-casualty incidents where you have 40 paramedics who all need to be debriefed, who all need to have something done about what they just went through.
Right.
Wow. So moving on from the heavy, the worst calls, just kind of those things that you talked about, we have another segment that we're calling the best and the rest. So if you can kind of tell us maybe one of the best calls that you can think of that you've responded to, whatever that best would look like for you.
Something that comes to mind just immediately is every single year we hold a survivors reunion for anybody who was in cardiac arrest and survived due to the efforts of the first responders. We have
That's
one of those every
cool.
single year where those survivors are invited and they go up on stage and they get a rose, and then the first responders who are there and contributed to that are able to meet with the patient again. They're able to receive some sort of an award, a certificate, an acknowledgement of their efforts. And so I've been thankful to have a couple of people where, due to my efforts and my partners and everybody else on scene, a year later, 2 years later, whatever it is, people that unfortunately I didn't even know were still alive. Because that is something that I really hope would change about our structure, is more information in regard to how the outcome is from our patients. Because that is something that I think would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Because, in this circumstance, I see my name on a list and I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, okay, there's a patient here. I mean, in a year's time, 2 years' time, unfortunately, names blend together. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
who was this guy? And then they get up on stage with you and you're like, holy cow, you're still alive. That's fantastic. I remember that. I was like, sorry, but I didn't think you would be alive right now.
Do you ever say
Like,
that?
I'm
That'd be kind of
surprised
funny.
to
No, we absolutely do not say that. But there are people where we've been like, still alive? Wow. Hey,
Wow.
I'm glad that, what I did actually meant something. That's fantastic. I mean, there's one guy in particular where we showed up and this guy was maybe 600 pounds. So the threshold limit of our stretchers. And kind of responsive as we were taking him out of his residence. He was just really sick. Once we got him out of the elevator and we're getting him into the ambulance, he died. And we were like, okay, let's start going this direction now. So we got him up into the back of the ambulance, and it was a very hot summer day, and just I can remember the sweat pouring off my body and saturating me. There was no air conditioning in the ambulance, because why would there be air conditioning in these ambulances? They don't have that kind of thing. And
No way.
oh yeah, no. The majority of ambulances don't have air circulation. They don't have proper shocks on their wheels, so you feel every single movement, every single pothole you hit.
I'm sure that makes CPR easy. They're jumping up to you.
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh my
But
gosh.
in this
Sorry. Okay, go on.
Yeah. CPR on a normal person is exhausting. That's why you switch every 2 minutes when you're doing CPR on somebody. When you're doing CPR on a 600-pound man is a lot more difficult because you don't have as much. I mean, you're having to put all of that force 10 times as hard in order to try and get as deep into their chest to pump their heart for them. There's a whole lot more working against you. And so just myself and one other person back and forth switching on compressions, because with some patients we have something called a Lucas device, which will do compressions for us. Really beneficial. It'll frees up a whole lot of hands so that we can do a lot more stuff. For patients that are severely overweight, unfortunately, they don't fit. So we have to manually compress. And it was like switching off compressors every 30 seconds, because that's about as long as we could last. So with this particular person, so much was going against them. There was no way that we were optimistic that they would survive. But come to find it, a couple, 1-2 years later, they're walking, they're talking, and they're alive. And you're like, I'm glad that I didn't go through that for nothing.
Yeah, I love that. When you were saying, like, originally about how you guys hold these ceremonies, I don't know if you could see my tears. I was
Hmm.
crying a little bit. That just like really touched me. That's so cool.
And it actually reminds me of another story. This one was a pediatric call. We have a lot of Amish farms that are around where we are, and we got called for a cardiac arrest on a work site. We showed up on scene, and there was like a 14-year-old Amish kid who had fallen off the ladder and was in cardiac arrest when we got to him.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we were the first ones on scene, my partner and I. And on a little more of a humorous note, brighten the mood a little bit, I happened to fall into the pool trying to get to this patient. Aside from that,
Like walking to him.
so coming around the back of the house, patients over by a ladder, people are screaming, right here, this is him, whatever. There was a tarp on the ground. I did not know the tarp was a pool. So I stepped on the tarp and I started sinking, and I was like, what is happening? Because, of course, I have all my bags. We have like over 100 pounds of gear that we'll carry into a call. And so I'm sinking, and I was like, why am I sinking? I was like, as there's water rising above my feet, and I was like, oh, I'm in a pool.
I'm in a
I'm in a
pool.
pool. Great, fantastic. Tell my partner, don't step in the pool, get around, go over there.
Go over there.
And in this certain circumstance, my partner actually was an EMT candidate that we were training. So my actual partner, who was actually a certified paramedic, who could do those things, was not on scene.
Mm.
They were
And you're in the
responding from
pool.
a different location. I'm in a pool, and my BLS EMT candidate is trying to get to the patient. I was able to crawl up out of the pool, thankfully. Also, thankfully, I was not the only person who fell into the pool. We eventually had to have people stand in front of the pool to get people to not fall into the pool. But so very, very comedic notes. Great things to keep about certain calls. Keep your sanity alive a little bit. But he was in a heart rhythm that we were able to shock and administer medications to, and we ended up flying him up to a child hospital that was an hour and a half by ground, but because we were taking him by helicopter, he was 15 minutes maybe, and he's alive.
Wow.
Just a random person telling me, random coworker, random EMT, I can't even remember who it was. They're like, hey, you remember that Amish kid, right? And it was like the 14-year-old one who was dead. And they're like, yeah, he's alive. Yeah, he's still he's kicking around, he's doing his thing. And I was like, oh, like, that's fantastic. So, yes. So the best things are always when you have these people who are unfortunately dead or really bad off, and you learn later that they're fine, that they're still alive, that your efforts contributed to them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I have to know, when you say fell into the pool, you mean like sunk a little bit, or like
I was like mid-thigh.
Oh, I just kept
With 60
picturing
pounds of
like
gear.
run, boom, like where'd Jaeger go?
Yeah. No, I did not disappear. The tarp kept me afloat fairly well.
okay, but you're
comedic.
like
Yes.
okay, so mid thigh, you're like almost halfway into this pool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just imagine your partner like turning around like, where'd he go? And you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm in the
I'm in a
pool.
pool. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad that he lived. That's exciting, and I'm glad that you got out of the pool. All right. Well, we mentioned we mentioned the rest of your calls, right? Is there any call that we haven't specifically kind of talked about yet that you want to talk about?
There was one that a partner and I were recognized for on our social media page. That, a woman that her son was actually a county employee who was there. So he knew us. He knew the big honcho boss guys. we're able to contact them and thank them for the things that my partner and I did on scene to save his mother that was on scene.
Oh.
So yeah, it's not all trauma. There are good things about it too.
Yeah, that's good. As much as we like trauma here, we want to know that you're doing well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole second half of this thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
How
actually
you bounce back.
thanks
Yes.
for transitioning us into our resiliency.
That's the perfect segue.
Yeah, so as you know, as everybody knows by now, on Project Tell Your Story, it's not only about the darkness, the trauma, the hard things that you go through, but also how you come back from that. So, Jaeger, do you consider yourself resilient? Why or why not?
I most definitely consider myself resilient. Yeah, I mean, even though I've been through so many horrible things, that I've seen so many terrible, I mean, things that people could never even dream of. And I see it so often, day after day. And there are horrible things that have happened in my life because of what I do, and bad repercussions for what I've been through. Even though there's a lot of hardship, there's a lot of bad things. I am the happiest that I have ever been in my life. And I continue to love every single day of my life. Every day is fun, it's an adventure, and I wouldn't change how I've done things.
I love that.
I'm really glad that you said yes to that question, because Joe and I were definitely prepared to argue with you. If you said, no, I'm not resilient, we're going to be like, all right, hands will be thrown.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Like-
are.
The fact that you can laugh about this stuff probably shows that you're at least a little bit resilient.
Yeah. It's the morbid sick sense of humor.
Yeah,
You
it
have to
helps.
laugh about it or else we'll cry.
Exactly. Gotta laugh or you'll cry. That's what I always say.
Well, then what are
But-
your coping mechanisms? Oh, sorry, go on. What were you saying?
Exactly what you're about to say. I mean, coping
Yeah.
mechanisms. Some people, it's alcohol.
Mhm.
That's not a great pathway. Alcohol is never a great pathway for coping.
For sure.
Therapy, that is a very good method for coping. Things like that. So I've been in therapy for a few years. I started right at the beginning of when I became a paramedic, and it has been very, very beneficial. They've not only been able to help me, sort through some of the stuff that I've been dealing with, but also teach me a lot of very valuable skills. A lot of skills that help me be able to handle these things on my own every single day. To be able to implement skills to help with that resiliency, to help me with processing the way that I feel and the way that I think about certain things. In addition, I mentioned, fishing at the very beginning. Fishing is a very therapeutic thing. Getting out into nature, that fresh air, just sitting there and reeling in fish, fighting fish, it's very therapeutic, very calming, stress relieving.
I'm laughing because I recently went fishing and it was not very therapeutic. My husband and I were yelling at each other because I couldn't catch a fish and he kept feeding the ducks. And I was like, how am I supposed to catch fish if you're throwing bread in the water for the ducks? So I'm
Funny.
glad that you have a different experience.
Well, I'm usually alone, so
That's
yeah, you
the
don't have
key,
any-
apparently, Joe. You need to go fishing by yourself.
Don't take the duck feeders with you.
exactly. I mean, hey, the carp might be coming if you do that.
Yeah,
Catch a couple.
that's true. Well, I didn't catch one of those either, so what a bummer.
Don't worry. The last couple of times I went fishing, I didn't catch a single thing. They ate all my bait, didn't get a single thing. So
Sad. It does make me happy to hear that you're in therapy, though, because like we talked about before, how society dictates things. I feel like therapy for men is not something that's very common. I feel like a lot of men feel as if they go to therapy, they're weak. or they're broken or something's wrong with them, but that's not the case. So I love that you're utilizing that resource and that you can vouch for men everywhere. Therapy, we love it.
Yes. Oh, I fought against it for a couple of years. I put it
Mm.
off and I put it off, and yeah, because I thought it would be stupid. I thought it would not be worth my time, my effort, that it wouldn't help at all. So that's the exact mindset of probably a lot of men out there, is that it will be exactly that. And I mean, I had to go through a couple of therapists. Like,
Right.
don't just stop at the one therapist. If one therapist does not work, you don't jive with them, don't just give up from there. Find somebody else. Try somebody else, because there'll be one that you end up clicking with. And in my circumstance, I found one that I've worked with, and I've been with them for a couple of years, and I mean, it's very beneficial. I can look back on that 2 year, fighting against it thing and be all like, man, if only you could see it now. Like,
Yeah,
you know, right
what a very different life. You know, your story here would probably be very different if you hadn't have started therapy.
Oh yeah,
You'd be one of those crotchety, angry paramedics that's
probably,
about to hit your 5 years and just peace out.
and be done. Yep.
What made you decide to do therapy? You said you fought against it a lot. What changed your mind?
I mean, the initial thing was my ex-wife. My ex-wife pushed for it a lot. She pushed to have me go to it. Thought it would help a lot, and I trusted her opinion. She knew a lot about it herself, so I decided to eventually just go and do it. And yeah, it took a couple of therapists, but eventually I did find that one. So
Good.
yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah, so I guess the moral of the story is men, listen to your wives.
Yes.
So, in your therapy or even just on your own developing these skills, have you learned ways to keep yourself grounded in the moment during a difficult call?
So that is not something that I've needed to do, because of kind of what I mentioned before, where there's that weird mental thing that first responders can do, where they just
Mm,
completely turn themselves off. So I might have a situation where later, I recognize that, oh, that was a horrible call. That was,
right.
detrimental. That was horrible. But in the moment, yeah, my brain is only tuned in to doing what I have to in the moment,
Right.
concentrating on the patient and their well-being and the medications and things that I have to do.
Yeah, that's good.
So, what career goals do you have for your future?
Oh, I have always wanted to go into flight. In initially when I wanted to be a nurse, I wanted to go be with that classic air medical company. I wanted to be on that life flight company, and so that's where I want to go now. I want to be on the helicopters. I want to be doing that sort of thing. So flight paramedic is essentially where I want to go, what I want to do, and potentially, when I'm old and my body has broken down to completion and I can't do this job anymore, then I'll teach. I would love to teach and be able to train the newest generation of paramedics.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
that's a good answer.
So, I have
Heck,
a question with the flight paramedic. Do you have to have a pilot's license, or like, are you flying the plane at all, or are you specifically working on the patient in the plane, the helicopter?
Yeah, so flight, uh, that one also is very determinant on where you're at and what company you're with. In regard to like Delaware, all of their life flight is run by the state police,
Hmm.
all
mm,
the 911. So in order to become a flight paramedic, you have to become a state police officer first. And
oh,
then you have to work on the street. And then you have to eventually work your way up to become that flight paramedic. However, Delaware's unique, so it's not like that in every single state. Let's say I were to go to, some other state. A lot of the time it's like a paramedic and a nurse and a pilot. And it can either be a fixed wing aircraft or a rotary aircraft like a helicopter. And some agencies love it if you can do multiple roles. So if you get your nursing degree and your paramedic, I mean, that's like a big bonus to them. So you can do either role, whichever hole you need to fill. I know there are some people who have their pilot's license who also have their paramedic or their nursing. So, if they need a pilot for that night, they can be that pilot. If they need a nurse, they can be the nurse. Whatever they need to do. For me, I won't have to get my pilots. I won't have to get my nursing degree. I have my paramedic certification, my national certification, so that'll allow me to just operate in that field, unless I wanted to expand, in the future somewhere else. So here in Delaware, if I wanted to be a flight paramedic, I would have to become a police officer or work for a hospital. But I do not, I don't want to become a police officer. That's not the avenue that I'm going towards. So if I do end up doing flight, I would have to move to a different state, be hired by somebody else, or be hired by a hospital. But in that regard, they don't do 911. It's only interfacility transports, which is also not really the thing that I'm looking for. So,
yeah, got you. So you'd eventually move. So Delaware, it sounds like, is not like a forever place.
Yeah, no.
Oh, very cool. So, as we're nearing the end, is there anything else that you feel like you didn't get to share or something that you want to talk about?
Something else to talk about that's more comedic and interesting about the job is probably about the numerous different ways that people die. We find dead bodies in the most interesting of places, the most interesting of positions imaginable. And for some reason, the majority of them always like to die either on the toilet or in between the toilet and the wall.
Don't know. Oh my god, like they fell over?
Yeah, like they slid off the toilet and are now like mangled, stuck in between the toilet and the wall.
I need you to know that I think every single listener is like instantly going, that's my worst fear.
Yeah. Dying on the toilet.
I will tell you what, I've found more people in that position and on the toilet than I have not.
They're just like in between the wall.
Yeah. And I mean, those dead bodies, at least, I feel like I sound horrible when I say it this way, but at least they're dead. Because when they're not dead and we actually have to do something for them, getting them out from between a wall and a toilet is not an easy process. It is very difficult, especially if they aren't like a skinny, frail person that can easily be slid out. No, usually they're fairly heavy and somehow work their way into that small, tiny space. And
are you like breaking toilets?
If you have to. Yeah,
oh my god!
You snap that toilet off the ground and push it out of the way.
Do you ever just like dump some oil on them and like lube them up and slide them out?
We don't have that much lube. We have lube, but not that much.
Well, if it's in their house, you have cooking oil.
Joe's resourceful.
I mean, that's a great idea. At one point in time, it had probably been thought of, but it's not. No, I don't think that's a good thought that we have.
You're all, grab the vegetable oil. We got another one.
I mean, half the time they're already covered in their own feces, so that lubricates stuff enough.
Okay, that's great.
The things that we have to go through, people don't understand.
Yeah.
But dead bodies. Some interesting dead bodies. One, for instance, guy was naked, doing a handstand, propped up against a wall. Full rigor mortis. So he was tall.
He died doing a handstand?
Yeah, propped up against the wall. And his chihuahua was trying to eat me as I was trying to check his arm.
Wait, his what?
His chihuahua. That was
his chihuahua. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it did not like me being in there. Mm-mm.
That's crazy that after he died, he stayed propped up on the wall. You'd think you would have, like...
None of us know how he got into that position. I mean, if you die, you go, like, limp.
Yeah.
Start to sag and fall into a different weird position. No. He was stiff as a board, handstanding, propped up against the wall. I do not want
Murder.
that position. Who
Somebody
knows?
kills him and just holds him there
Or
until he.
a family member playing some weird sick trick or something found him dead, and we're like, you know what would be really funny? Plop this dude against the wall. Could really make those paramedics guess.
You show up and you're all, hey man, you've got like the world record for the longest handstand. Congrats.
Yeah, so there's
I can't breathe.
or how about like a 600-pound female who was naked on her mattress, covered neck to toe in cookies.
Oh,
Spit.
And not even like the good cookies either. Like not Oreo brand. Like
if they were
like-
Oreos, if they were like good cookies, would you eat them?
No. What?
Not even the good cookies. It would have made a difference. I would have had more respect for you. If you at least
Crawl through them to get to the patient. Yeah, it's cookie brand makes
it matters. What level of cookies? Are they the great value brand? Were you at least did you at least die eating genuine cookie? I get it. Yeah. So, moral of the story, don't skimp on your cookies. Buy the real Oreos, because that could be your last meal.
Because if you're gonna die happy eating an actual Oreo.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like the bird cookies.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Another one that comes to mind. This one, if you do certain acts together, you got to be precautious.
As soon as you said axe, I knew what was happening.
So walk in, and a guy is naked. Don't know why people are always naked. They're always naked. He was naked and bent over at like a 90-degree angle and like face planted into his recliner.
Mm.
Rock hard. Erection. Hand still gripping. He had shot up with heroin, OD'd while he was masturbating, and fell forward and suffocated himself into his armchair.
Oh,
I can't even
mean-
respond to that.
did he? I mean, I guess he kind of died happy.
He died happy. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I don't know,
Very
how long did
apparent.
it take him to...
Very apparent. He was very happy.
How long did it take him to suffocate?
I don't know. Usually your brain turns off after about a minute to 2 minutes, and if you OD, you stop breathing anyway, so
Okay.
Yeah.
probably.
Also, a lot of the blood sounds like to other extremities,
brain.
not your brain.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's an
Dang.
interesting one. There's a lot of weird sex stuff. People die in a lot of weird sex ways.
Like in the
Okay.
like, have you ever like
Yeah, have you like
Seen-
responded?
connected? They're connected still.
No,
Like
I
two
haven't had
people
any-
die?
Surprisingly, I haven't had anything up somebody's butt either, which apparently is widely popular.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
maybe.
watch a lot of like the nursing like funny videos online say that that's common.
No, still haven't had that one. That's still on my bucket list.
Do you have like a
Yeah, you
bingo
wanna-
card?
Butt stuff.
We used to, before admin said that wasn't appropriate.
But like
They always
it's a
ruin
dark
everything.
humor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, no.
we're
Yeah,
either
they're-
gonna cry or we have a bingo card.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a secret bingo card. They don't have to know about it.
This one was secret.
Mm.
Don't know how
Someone
it became
told.
secret.
Someone's a narc.
Yes.
Narc. Or he actually still has one, but he's on a public podcast, so he has to say, yo, we threw the other one away.
Yeah.
No, we don't have that anymore.
Inappropriate.
We don't do that.
I deny.
I plead the fifth.
I'll show you guys after.
Bingo champ.
Never got the butt stuff one. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
But you've never had like people still connected. Add that to your hypothetical bingo card, I guess.
Yeah. Mainly choking themselves. That's the main.
Like
choke.
asphyxiation thing? Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Joe, do you not know what?
No, I was just imagining because we're talking about sex, and then you said mainly choking themselves. Like,
Yeah. So
like
it's an
they're
erotic
trying
thing.
Belt around their
Yeah.
neck and
Oh, that's okay. That's what I was thinking, but then I
Yeah.
was like, wait a second, did we move on and I missed something?
No, sorry. So to clarify, I guess for listeners who had the same face as Joe, so like explain to us, Jaeger, what you mean.
uh,
Well, like, sorry. So like they're it's erotic asphyxiation, right?
some people
Yeah.
get actually aroused by asphyxiation. So they'll do that to themselves. They'll wrap a belt around their neck, a rope, something, and they'll attempt to hang themselves while masturbating, and they can't get the belt off in time. So they don't.
And you've responded to quite a few of those.
Yeah, that's a popular one. Don't know if it's just a Delaware thing, but yeah.
Just a Delaware thing. That's why Delaware doesn't exist, because everyone keeps choking themselves to death over there.
I had a partner who he worked for the medical examiner's office, and so he had all sorts of weird stories, weird things, and he had one patient once who had like a whole contraption built, like what are they called, a Goldberg machine or something like that, the ones that you set off something and it triggers. Have you ever seen those videos?
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Where you roll it, and it hits a hammer and it knocks something else out.
Oh, okay, yeah. My mind was still in sex. So.
Well, yes, but that for sex.
Yeah.
So they trigger something, and apparently there was gears and nuts and bolts and everything all over the room, and the fail safe to cut the rope or whatever didn't fail safe and killed
it. Oh.
Yeah.
Shit.
Science experiment gone wrong.
Mm-hmm. So be careful.
Wow.
Be careful out there, guys.
Yeah, make sure you have somebody observe if you're gonna do those things.
That's what we're trying to say here. Yes, have a second.
Just at least be like, if I don't contact you by this time, come make sure I'm still alive because my sex contraption might have killed me.
Or it's like you have a spotter, right? It's like, hey, just be there to make sure that I don't.
Here's the scissors.
Just be there to make sure that, like, if I can't lift the weight up, but for a little bit, I'm correlating here.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm.
I bet that's a whole other realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This took a very different turn from trauma to
be edited for this.
I know. I was like unsure of how much of this. We're definitely putting the cookie one in. To be determined if we put in the sex traps in there.
I think we should put it all in there.
We're already labeled 18 or older.
That's true. And we've had a lot of people talk about just how they love our flow and how funny we are. I think people are gonna eat this up. Maybe you'll be getting a lot more calls because we're giving people some ideas.
That does worry me, legitimately.
Job security for Jaeger.
Wow. So
we have job security.
You're like, please don't give people ideas.
He wants the butt stuff, Delaware.
I mean, that's true. I still haven't had that.
That's so funny. My favorite part of this entire one is the cookie story.
Oh, that's not the first cookie one either. That's happened multiple times. Dead
really?
Cookies. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is cookies like the most common food for people to just be covered in?
Yeah, at least that's whole. Like, I see a lot
Yeah,
of, like,
vomit.
digested food, like vomit, yeah, all over
Oh.
people, yeah. I had one guy who was like, it looked like he drank like 6 gallons of chicken noodle soup beforehand. That was horrible.
Ew.
There was so much chicken soup.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to intubate somebody when they have gallons of chicken soup coming out of their orifices.
Okay, so like, those stories, like, do you find that traumatic when you go? I know you said that like you kind of like turn things off, but like when you go home, is that when like do you find that traumatic or just like gross or
Um,
nothing?
I mean, more exhilarating.
Hmm.
You know, the whole job is it attracts adrenaline junkies. You know, people who have ADHD, ADD. You know, they get excited from that sort of stuff. And I mean, that's morbid sense of humor and stuff like that. Normal people shouldn't get excited over traumas. Normal people shouldn't get excited over seeing all these things. I mean, it is what we thrive on. You know, it is exhilarating. If it was just a simple tried to intubate somebody and their throat was perfect, textbook, great, everything went smoothly, no hitches, you know, whatever, great. It's like, good, job well done, fine. But when you're in the heat of the moment, like with this one guy, gunshot victim, and he has so much chicken soup coming up out of his throat when you're trying to secure his airway, you know, he's dying. You know, you have to think fast. Things are constantly changing. So you're like, okay, are we going to be able to suction enough? Are we going to have to just place a different airway? Do we have to cut this guy's throat open and shove a tube down his throat? Like, you have to constantly be thinking and planning ahead. And that's what, you know, makes the job so great. For me, at least, is it's always different. It's always changing. It always makes me think.
Yeah. Dang.
But yeah, that in regard to like studies being done about traumas and things that people have to go through in their lifetimes. You know, the average person in their lifetime will see like maybe 1 to 2 traumas that they have to deal with. First responders, I think, I can't even remember the statistics. It's something like over 2 to 3,000 or something traumas that are equivalent
Wow.
to normal people. So that's how much that they have to process and see on a daily basis. And it really
Hmm.
depends, I mean, where you live. Like if you're in a far off, middle of the wilderness type of agency, you have maybe 1 to 2 calls a day. You know, there's not much that's done. If you're in a big city, a big popular, fast area like where I am, I mean, we do thousands and thousands of calls a year. So we're constantly moving. I mean, I think one of the busiest shifts I ever had in a 24-hour period was like 26 calls. So that's like over 1 call every half hour. So you're constantly
Wow.
moving the entire time. And a lot of those are traumas. Recently, these last couple of weeks, for some reason, people like to just hit people on motorcycles. So we've had to fly out so many people who are just smoked on motorcycles. And those people are really bad off.
Wow.
So, I mean, something that would traumatize one person, you know, a regular person, you know, that they would see maybe once in their entire life, we see every single day, every single shift, multiple times a day. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to have to think about.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it goes back to what you said about like, yeah, I'm resilient. Like, you're resilient because you bounce back from that over and over and over and over and over again. And that'll be your life.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what causes some people to quit and leave. You know, some people just can't do it. I've had multiple coworkers who uh, they're only a couple years in and it's just not their thing.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do it.
Yeah. It's like you said before about it just builds up. So if you don't have good coping mechanisms, if you don't have a way to release that, then it's just going to build and build and build and build until you just explode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. And I really feel like this is going to be think this is going to be really good for people who are listening who don't have any idea about what you do. It's very informative, and I think it'll be very good for people who are living your life to say, yeah, me too, that's how I feel, or maybe get someone into therapy. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can reach out and help one person.
That's the goal.
That'll
exactly.
be worth it. Yep.
Yeah, it was very eye-opening. Even with like my little knowledge of at least paramedics and EMTs in the state that I live in. Apparently, Delaware, I don't know anything about that place, but at least here I have a little bit of understanding of what you would do. But there were so many things that you were saying that I was like, wow, I had no idea about that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see your side of the career. And then also just hearing that, yeah, you guys are people too. You guys are humans too. You're not going to roll up on a call and deal with all of this really hard stuff and then just go home and be like, whatever. That guy died, but
Yeah.
All right, well, then we will end the episode the same way with the same question we ask all of our visitors, all of our guests. If you could write a letter to your past self, what would you say?
I would tell them that you're going to go through a lot of very difficult things. You're going to struggle a lot, and it's going to get very tough. There'll be times where you think that you can't go on any further, that you go into some very dark places. But eventually, you get good resources, you meet good people, and you come out and you will be in the best place that you've ever been. You'll be the happiest you've ever been, and the most optimistic about your future that you've ever been.
Wow. You said a lot of very powerful things today.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thanks for coming on, Jaeger. And this is Project Tell Your Story, signing off.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Project Tell Your Story is created and produced by your hosts, Sam and Joe. Music composed by Morgan Mold. Logo art by Jordan Dalton. Ready to share your story? For a chance to be featured on our podcast, please reach out to us. Send a brief summary of your story to contact.tellyourstories@gmail.com.
If you or someone you know is a first responder and has been or is currently suffering from PTSD or trauma, please reach out to www.firstrespondersfoundation.org or www.respondersstrong.org. You can also text BADGE to 741-741 to connect confidentially with a trained crisis counselor.